Good afternoon. What a week it's been. Hi, everybody. How are you? First of all, before I start, massive, massive, massive thank you to everybody. I don't think any of us expected this to go as huge as it's gone. And it's just been, this week has been absolutely crazy. Sorry that for anybody that I didn't get back to, I will get back to you and message me again if I don't. Okay, some housekeeping before we start today's update. The first thing is, I'm not going to be able to keep up with the comments. And I had some moderators ready to help me out, and I can't get it to work. So forgive me, I'll answer what I can if I can. Secondly, ignore the trolls. Please don't connect with them in any way. Just ignore them for now. Which is the first thing I want to talk about, and that is speculation. I keep saying over and over and over again, please don't speculate with theories of who you think it was or how they think they did it and name people, because to do that is to do to these people what was done to Luke back then. It was wrong then, it's wrong now. But there's another aspect that I think people really have to understand. If any of these people that are being named, the names are being bandied about with direct accusations or claims about them, should any one of them ever be arrested or charged or legal action taken against them, they could claim that they couldn't get a fair trial because they'd been plastered all over social media. So please, it's the one thing that I really, really, really want to kind of push home. Don't do it, please. Anyway, questions that have come up this week, and there have been hundreds of them. I've kind of cut them down just for today. I'm going to be doing a live update every week anyway, so I will get to all the questions eventually. I'd be here all night if I tried to answer everything. But I'm going to start with Stocky Man and other sightings and some of the confusion that's arisen around Stocky Man. So the first thing is that a number of people have said to me, you said one thing on James English and Corinne said something else on James English. And that's very true. Corinne got a bit mixed up. The only official information we've ever had about a confession was a man who is not Stocky Man. Okay, so any suggestion that Stocky Man and the man who confessed are the same thing, the only official information we've ever had about the confession is that it was somebody who is not Stocky Man. But other sightings at the time, now we know Stocky Man disappeared. They told us he'd never been identified. That is not true. It was in the defence. It was in the police files, but never released to the defence, that one of the people who'd seen Stocky Man and given the police their description and everything went back to the police later and said she thought she knew who he was, and she'd picked him out from a group of other similar looking males and gave them a name. That wasn't released to the defence. We only found out about it after the SCCRC application found it. So I think that's a fairly important omission, to say the least. Now, other sightings of males in the immediate area, either the top of the path or on the route that Jodie was last seen. So many people have got in touch with me in the last week who went to the police at the time and gave descriptions of males that they saw at the time. What I'm finding now is I'm getting independent reports from different people describing very similar males. Now, this goes a long way towards explaining the idea that, for example, the Andrina Bryson sighting, which I'll come to in a minute, was credible because there were apparently no other similar sightings or sightings of other people that, you would have expected. And that's simply because they wouldn't take their statements Or if they did, and so many people have said to me, yeah, they took a statement, but they weren't interested. They never came back to me. So now we find that there was much more information available to the police investigation at the time that they didn't want to know about. Fortunately, all of these people are getting in touch. We're keeping their details, and we'll use that going forward. The next batch of questions all came from an article in the Daily Record, where they claimed that these were the hard facts that proved that Luke Mitchell was a murderer. This is what they said, okay? And a lot of people have then been confused and said, oh, wait, you said there was no DNA, and there was. And so I'm going to deal with each bit because it also ties into some of the stuff you guys have been telling us over the last week or so. So let's start with the DNA on the bra and trousers. And this article claimed Luke's DNA was on Jodie's underwear. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. There was a mixed profile, which the prosecution witness, the expert witness, tried to claim matched in parts Luke's profile in the same parts. Now, let me explain this to you in a way that Professor Alan Jameson explained years ago at an event I was at. How many of you right now have a 20p piece in your purse or your pocket or your bag or your wallet? I'm guessing it's going to be quite a few of you. We find a 20p piece at the murder scene. Which one of you, with the 20p in your pocket, dropped your other 20p at the murder scene? Or maybe it wasn't any of you. Maybe it's somebody else with a 20p piece. That is essentially how these profiles work. Unless you have a full matching profile, you do not have, you can't say this was this person's DNA. You just can't say it. But we'll have to say the hard facts are that there was a full DNA profile on Jodie's clothing. So if the Daily Record want to claim a hard fact that proves somebody is a murderer is that their DNA, a full profile of their DNA, is found at the murder scene, what does that suggest? It's not me that's saying it. Daily Record. The trousers. This was another bit of trickery. Sorry, I'm going to write down questions as I see them, just if I can come back to them at the end. The trousers, another bit of trickery. So there was a tiny fragment of Jodie's DNA found on a pair of Luke's trousers. Shock horror. Oh no, you said there was none. These trousers were in a bag, a hold-all, that Luke took back and forward to his dad's at the weekend. There was no suggestion that they had anything whatsoever to do with the murder. Couldn't be dated, couldn't say how long the DNA had been there, but they were testing every single item of his clothing. Every single item. They were just trawling for something that had Jodie's DNA in it so that they could try and make a connection. But these trousers, they were still in the hold-all from the previous weekend. So again, that's just the theatre that was the Luke Mitchell trial. So let's move on now to the next one, Luke's alibi. And according to the Daily Record, his alibi was rubbished because his brother changed his story. Well, let's take that from the beginning. On the second day after he gave his statement, Luke's brother went back to the police to change his statement. That's absolutely true. So he gave his statement, and then he went home and he was talking to his mum, and she said, wait, because he couldn't remember anything about the Monday evening. It was just an ordinary Monday evening up until later that night. I said, no, don't you remember? That's the night Luke burned your dinner. And he went, oh yeah. He tried to go straight back to the police. They wouldn't take his change of statement straight away. That's why there's a 2-day gap. But within 2 days, he'd corrected his statement to say, that's the night he burned the pies. That's how I know he was there. That's been shown against him, held against him ever since. The next bit, the bit about watching porn and all of that, again, the computer logs show that these were pop-ups. He was on car and bike sites, and these were pop-ups. Regardless, they used that, they turned that against him at trial. And the timing of how they did that at trial is really significant. Right up to this point, his brother was saying, he was there, I did see him, the police confused me so much. Now remember, when they arrested the brother, they pulled him out the car, stopped him in the street, dragged him out the car, 5 police cars, all these officers descended him, spread-eagled on the road, bundled into a police car, and taken off and questioned, interrogated for 6 hours. Donald Finlay said at appeal, they were trying to break his brother exactly the same way they tried to break Luke. So up to this point at trial, he's saying, no, I was there and the police were totally confusing me and they wouldn't accept anything I said. And the prosecution, without warning, without any warning, thrust the pictures of Jodie's body in front of him. No warning, just bam. And he wasn't allowed a break, he just had to carry on. I was in complete shock by then. And then the prosecutor just went for him and threw all this stuff about watching porn and doing something else when he was watching porn and all of that. And basically, they were just trying to get him to agree that that's what he was doing. And what he said, when it was put to him, could that have been the case? He said yes. So he didn't say, yes, I was. They'd railroaded him into a corner to get him to say that. But if, according to the Daily Record, changing a story for an alibi is hard fact that proves somebody's a murderer, we know for certain there's a lot more people should be in jail right now for the same thing. So, Daily Record, best be a bit careful about what you claim are hard facts that prove somebody's a murderer. Okay, let's move on to the eyewitness, Mrs. Bryson, who saw the young couple and said, well, eventually identified Luke from a photograph. Now, she didn't describe 2 people anything like Luke and Jodie, nothing like them. She also said that she didn't see either of their faces. Now, tell me how you can identify someone from a photograph of their face if you didn't see their face. But again, the Daily Record said they reported that the judge said the evidence does not stand on its own. The evidence of this sighting. It could only stand if it was woven into the circumstantial case that they cobbled together to create this case against Luke. They also mentioned the 2 witnesses at the other end, the new battle end of the path. Now, I've spoken about this before. There's a very, very strong possibility that was a mistaken identity because there was somebody who looked a lot like Luke. We know was on the New Battle Road that evening. But somebody contacted me during the week with a question that I'd actually never really thought about before. If these 2 witnesses had seen Luke in a parka at 5:45, 20 to 6, within half an hour of the murder, there's definitely not enough time for him to have gone home, got changed and come back out. But that doesn't matter. What matters is they claimed that his mum burned the parka to get rid of evidence. Presumably blood and, stuff from the murder. Surely these witnesses, seeing this guy propped against a wall, would have mentioned blood on his clothing. Surely. And if there was none, why would his mother have had to burn the parka in the first place, according to their story? So again, here's another bit where when I say cobbled together, I mean cobbled, because as soon as you start to apply logic to it, it doesn't work. So he's on the phone to Jodie's mum's house at 5:38. 3 to 5 minutes later, he's seen by these two witnesses just standing in the street, minding his own business. Nothing on his clothing, nothing at all. But somehow he had to run home and hide and get his mother to dispose of his clothing by burning it. Why? If he was perfectly happy to stand on a main road in full view with not a thing on him. So again, eyewitness sightings. By the way, the two witnesses at the new battle end of the path identified him after the police took, which newspaper could it be? With a picture of Luke, and said to them, is this him? They took a newspaper picture to the witnesses and said, is this him? Okay, you can make what you will of that. That's your eyewitness identification evidence that is hard fact that proves somebody's a murderer. The next one's the speaking clock. Why did he phone the speaking clock? It proved that he was out of the house. Did it? First of all, Luke had a habit of phoning the speaking clock, and the phone records showed that. In the morning, before he left for school, and when he got in from school. He did it. Why did he do it? I don't know. But he did. But they used it to say he was out of the house. Okay, let's again have a look at the logic. The Andrina Bryson sighting said the male was in the path with his hands out in front of him like this. At exactly the time Luke was on the phone to the speaking clock. Andrina Bryson didn't mention a clock, but she did mention hands. Sorry, a phone, but she did mention hands. So either the guy had the phone glued to his ear so that he could have his hands out like this, or it wasn't Luke, because Luke was on the phone to the speaking clock at exactly the time that sighting was happening. I have no idea how phoning the speaking clock can be said to be a hard fact of any crime. But there is another aspect to the phone evidence, and that is cell site data. As far as we're aware, well, certainly it's never been released to the defence, so as far as we're aware, there was no cell site data analysis done to show that Luke's phone went from the new battle end of the path to the East House's end and back again. And if there had been, well, if it was done, that would have been very, very strong evidence to back up their sighting. But we were always told it wasn't done. I now believe, based on information I've seen in the files since, that it was done and it was never released to the defence. It's also interesting, I think, that there was no cell site data analysis done on anybody else's phones either. Now, lots of people gave information about where they were and where they went and what they did that night. None of the phones were checked for movement. And I've been asked this before, is it not because the technology wasn't good enough at the time? No, it's not, because I checked with two cell site experts. And it was, the technology was available. They just either didn't use it or they used it and didn't release it. Moving on. Luke discovered the body, says the Daily Record, and that's hard truth, hard fact that he's a murderer. Okay, let's go back to changing stories being hard facts about murderers just for a minute, shall we? Because Luke didn't find the body. The dog did. Mia did. She led them all by reacting at the wall that there was something there. So for the Daily Record to say that it was because Luke discovered the body and that he showed no emotion and all of this, when we know for certain that all of the statements that supported that changed a month later, and the Daily Record is prepared to accept that as hard fact. Once again, there are people with the Daily Record's own hard facts stacking up against them. I'm not for a minute saying they're murderers. I'm saying that's what the Daily Record itself is suggesting. Okay, the Black Dahlia connection. So this story that Luke saw, the watercolour paintings that Marilyn Manson did, and Lord Nimmo Smith, the judge, said at sentencing, I think you carried these images in your mind, and something like, wanted to carry out a copycat murder or something like that. Carried these images in your mind. Do you know there's not a single piece of evidence that Luke had ever seen these images? Nothing. They checked his computers, they checked, anywhere he would have had access. Not a single piece of evidence that he'd ever seen them. So that couldn't have been used at trial as evidence. It was only a suggestion, and even the judge made the mistake of treating it as fact, as evidence backed by fact, when it wasn't. Now this one I'm going to come to on two points. Mark Keane and the story about him and Scott Forbes wanting to sell the story to the paper. Now, let's just think about this. Take logic, because the only evidence that was ever a suggestion came from Mark Keane himself. Okay, no other evidence to back it up. But let's think about the logic here. According to Mark Keane's story, Scott Forbes went to him and said, "Tell you what, you go to the cops and tell them that you can't remember what you were doing that night, but you got up in the morning with scratches on your face and yada yada yada. And then when they clear you, we'll take your story to the papers and get 50 grand. What sort of imbecile would agree to that? Really, seriously. What idiot would go, yeah, great idea, in the middle of the biggest murder investigation in Scotland at the time? Scott has always denied that such a conversation ever took place, and yet at appeal, Mark Keane's version was taken as fact. So I want that put straight. There was never any evidence to back that up anywhere. But going back to the Daily Record, who said Mark Keane was ruled out by investigators? No, he wasn't. He was never investigated. They had his details in their system from the beginning, and they couldn't find him, even though he lived in New Battle Abbey College. So he wasn't. If he was ruled out, it certainly wasn't on the basis of investigation, because they did none. Condom man. So again, they said he was ruled out. No, he wasn't. He wasn't, because they didn't know about him until 3 years later. He lied in his statement 3 years later, and when the police found out he lied, they got him back in, and he said, well, I had to say something. And that was the end of it. And the reason the police gave at the time for not pursuing that any further was that the case was closed. By that, they mean Luke Mitchell had already been convicted. So you can make what you will of that as well. Hang on, my comments have gone away. There we go. Yeah, so this was the Daily Record's take on it, and that meant lots and lots of people were coming to me saying, how can that be true if that's true? Well, the answer is it's not true. It's not true. And they got away with just twisting here and there. Joe, Susan, how's Corinne doing? Corinne has been housed, so she's safe and warm now, just so that everybody now knows she's not in that terrible place anymore. Last thing about the Daily Record article is their claim that, and a lot of people who are against the idea of Luke not being guilty have said it was biased and one-sided, the documentary. Fair enough. What have mainstream media been doing for almost 18 years, if not biased and one-sided reporting? They want to cry now, it's not fair, it's one-sided. What have they been doing for nearly 18 years? I was stunned when I read that, actually. Like, really? So, yeah, this is the first time in nearly 18 years we've been able to put the other side to the public. We've known about it for such a long time. It's the first chance we've had to put the other side and to talk about balance and impartiality and all of that after the relentless years of totally biased reporting against Luke is laughable, I think. Anyway, another question that I've been asked a few times on this line of biased and one-sided is, when am I going to put out the other strong evidence that the prosecution had but didn't use at trial? There's none. And you're not telling me if they had strong evidence, they wouldn't have used it at trial because their case was so tenuous to begin with. So if there'd been other strong evidence in there, why didn't they use it? Because it's not there. And that's all there is to it. It's not there. There's been a lot of talk about Luke's legal representation at the time and not doing a good job or letting him down or whatever. And somebody said to me, I mean, he didn't have that difficult a job. He only had to show there was enough doubt. Well, after the boys on the moped testimony, the media themselves were packing up to go home because they thought it was all over, because it raised that much doubt. But when you've had the type of media hype that followed this case, pardon me, pretty much from the day Jodie was found up to the day Luke's trial started, with the little bit in the middle where after he was arrested they said, a youth who can't be named for legal reasons. Really? They'd named him for 10.5 months. They'd put his picture in the papers for 10.5 months. For the little bit in between the April and the July until he turned 16, he couldn't be named for legal reasons. Yeah. It just... Anyway, the whole idea that a sort of standard defence in a case like this should have been sufficient. It was never going to be, and I don't think it would have mattered who'd represented Luke. I really don't. I think the trial by media was so intense that I really do think that the jury had already been far too influenced by the media campaign. And we had a report at the end of the trial of one of the jurors when they came back to deliver their verdict, giving a thumbs up to Jodie's family, which kind of, well, again, you can make of that what you will. Somebody asked about deliberation, and I think one of the articles had said after 24 hours deliberation. And remember, at the time, this was the longest trial of a single accused in Scottish history at the time. The jury retired after lunch on the Thursday afternoon. They came back in at 4 o'clock and said they were nowhere near a verdict. They were sent home. They weren't put in a hotel and kept separate from everybody else. And the judge said there have been cases in the past where people were put in hotels and kept away because of the dangers of outside communication, outside influence, but that he didn't see a risk of that in this case. I mean, that is stunning. Anyway, sent them home, told them to go home and have a good evening and forget all about it and come back refreshed in the morning. So they did, 10 o'clock. An hour later, they had their verdict. So they actually deliberated on the longest trial of a single accused in Scottish history. They deliberated for about 5 hours. That's it. There's, as you've seen, there's masses of stuff to consider. How did they do all that in 5 hours? We were also told that it was a majority verdict, not unanimous. Now in Scotland, a majority verdict, there's 15 jurors. It could have been 8-7. We don't know. But it wasn't unanimous. So there were jurors who had their doubts. Unfortunately, not enough of them. Okay, on to other things. Quick update on the fundraiser and the petition. Just before I came on, the petition was heading to 19,500 signatures, which is fantastic. Keep sharing, keep pushing it out there. Now we know the petition on its own is not going to get this case addressed. We need the petition as proof, as backup, that there are so many people so concerned about this conviction and needing it re-examined. So it'll be part of our other moves to put that pressure on to try and get that re-examination. Because at the end of the day, that conviction was done in your names. That conviction was obtained in your names for justice for you. So if we don't think we got justice, and we don't think Jodie got justice, and we don't think Luke got justice, what's the point of the justice system if it's not delivering justice? That's the long and the short of the whole point of the petition. Fundraiser for Corinne has done fantastically. Thank you. You have all been so kind. There is a bit of a problem with it at the minute. I'm hoping to get it sorted out. A well-meaning supporter posted a message from Corinne saying she didn't want the money. She wanted it to go into an account for Luke. And none of the major fundraising platforms allow that. They don't allow fundraising for convicted people. The other problem is, because that's now gone public, I could be seen to be, I could even be accused of obtaining money by deception. So misleading people by raising money for Corinne that was actually meant for Luke. Obviously, that was not the case. And, you know, everybody knows that wasn't the case. But on paper, that's a claim that could make. And there are some haters who have stated publicly that they will legally challenge it if that money's paid out to Corinne. I'm in touch with GoFundMe. I've been back and forward for several days now. I'm just waiting for a final response from them. They think they may have a way that this can be resolved. So I will update as soon as I know. But it was just to let you know that I haven't been putting updates about the fundraiser while this has been going on. And I'll let everybody know as soon as I do what GoFundMe come back with. Okay, books. Well, again, thank you so much. Hundreds of you have asked to buy books directly, because from that I can donate a portion of the book sale to a fund that pays for things like expert opinions, lawyers, like specialist lawyer advice, while there's no active proceedings on Luke's case, there is no legal aid funding available. So we can't approach lawyers with potential arguments and have them address them because there's no money to pay them. So if we can get this money into, at the minute, it's not an official fundraiser. It's a separate bank account that I've set up, and that money goes in there. And then if we need anything like that for Luke, there's money there for it, and I can afford to pay for it. We tried to set up a couple of fundraisers, and they've all been taken down for the reasons I said earlier. You can't use the major platforms to fundraise for a convicted person. Setting up a charity, there are other difficulties connected to doing it that way. So if anybody out there knows of a way that we can fundraise for stuff like that, and how to set it up, yell, let me know. Where was I going with that? Books. Yes, so that's where the money goes. Now, let me clarify, because there seems to have been some confusion about what gets donated to Luke's fighting fund. So let me explain. With Innocence Betrayed, well, with both books, Amazon, so first of all, there's the print costs, the cost of physically printing the books. Then there's the cut that's taken by the publisher. Then Amazon take 35%. Other online sellers take 40% of the cover price. So, for example, with Innocence Betrayed, Amazon takes £7. For every book they sell, they just take £7. So when you buy directly from me, of the £7 that Amazon doesn't get, £5 goes into Luke's fighting fund. The other two I use for postage. Okay? Now, Innocence Betrayed is a less expensive book, but it's a different publisher agreement. And so just that people understand, and again, Amazon take their cut. So I can't possibly donate £5 from books sold on Amazon, because, as an example, for No Smoke, because of the way that's set up, by the time everybody's taken their bit out of sales on Amazon, I get less than £3. So I couldn't possibly donate £5 of that, because then I'd be topping up to £5. So if it's bought from Amazon, yes, that less than £3 that comes to me for No Smoke, for example, still helps to keep me afloat. It's one more hour I don't have to work elsewhere to earn money to pay my own bills, that I can use that hour instead to work on Luke's case. So that's the story with where the money goes from the books. Next moves. This is where you guys come in. So lots of people have been saying, how can we help? What can we do? And we've had some really, really good suggestions. And there was one came up earlier, it's come up quite a few times, is people writing to their MPs. Somebody suggested I send a copy of the book to Nicola Sturgeon. So somebody else suggested I send a copy of the book to every MP in Scotland. And the way I'm looking at it, they've got enough money to pay for it, but they won't. So that, and people just writing to their MPs. So let me know what you think about that. If everybody in each constituency individually hits their MP with an email, that's going to be a lot of emails for each MP coming into. And if they don't respond and you just follow up, and they don't respond, you just follow up, their inbox is going to get clogged up pretty quickly. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. One of the groups suggested, you know how during the pandemic people put rainbows in their windows. One of the groups suggested putting up something in the windows to show that they support the call to have this case re-examined. And the emblem that they came up with was butterflies. So again, I think that's a great idea, and I've just lost the link to the to the group. I'll put it in the comments after I'm finished with this live. So there's another way that people can show support. But what I'm looking for is ideas from you guys on. Oh yeah, sorry. We've also got the protest on the 24th of April. We do have another one in the planning stage, and I'll let everybody know as soon as I have the details for that one as well. These are real, tangible shows of support. These are real ways to show the authorities we are not going away. We want answers. It's nearly 2 decades and we still don't have answers. So things like peaceful protest, and again, I know everybody wants to help and people are really upset by this. The protests have to be absolutely peaceful. We cannot give them a chance to try and suggest that we're anything other than concerned citizens, which is what we all are. So yeah, there's the other protest is in the planning, and I'll let everybody know when we have the details of that. Also, lots of people saying, like, I do web design, I do this, I do that, I can help you with that. Now, I have to confess, hands up, so many of you have been in touch with so many different things that you can do that I've kind of lost track a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up another email address and ask people, even if you have already been in touch, if you have a particular thing that, oh yeah, there's another one, sorry. If you have a particular thing that you can do to help, ping it into that inbox. And what I'm trying to do is bring together a group of people that can all be doing things at the same time to keep the pressure on, to keep it up there. So 2 other things that have been suggested. One is Luke Mitchell's innocent face masks, which I thought was a fantastic idea. So there's a lady who's getting these made up just now and looking at how to set it up so that you can buy straight from her, and the money will go into a fund for Luke, for Luke's legal challenge. And there's another lady whose daughter does T-shirts and hoodies and things like that. So they've been in touch saying, do you think they'd be interested in that sort of thing? How would you want them done? What would you want the wording to be? So again, any suggestions you guys have got on that? I thought another idea that I think would be really good would also help to put some money in that fighting fund, so that if we need to get a team of people together, we've got the money there to do it. Okay. So yeah, anybody that can help, I'll put up a new email address, and if you ping me a message in there, I'll try and get everybody together. So yeah, so vinyl stickers for the car, great idea. So anybody that can help me to coordinate this as well, because as you can see, coming in from absolutely everywhere, and people are all over the place, as in all over the country. So trying to pull them together and coordinate them would be really, really good. Yeah, these are Marlene Ray. These are great ideas. Yeah, I think so too. Some form remarks, Scott McMillan. Yeah, well, the protest outside the Parliament on the 24th of April, that will be a place to start. Resin key rings, Tasha O'Day, thank you. Yeah, another great idea. So these are, I'm going to have to go back through now and write these all down because I'll forget about them. These are, oh, somebody's saying yes, I'll have a hoodie order when they happen. Ellen Barkley, thank you. And t-shirts. Yeah, so these seem to be good ideas. These seem to be things that people would really be interested in. So these were all the updates that I had been asked directly about that I can think of at the minute. Does anybody have anything that they'd like me to address that I haven't addressed yet? Media, do I plan to get media outlets to cover the protests, or will that happen anyways? Yes and yes. So yes, we'll make sure that there's media coverage, but I think it'll happen anyway. Banners on motorway flyovers, excellent idea, Billy Stagg. Yeah, graffiti, we can't condone. I do have to say, for me, it was kind of reminiscent of things like the Birmingham Six. But if people are going to put things up, then please make sure they're removable, that they're not damaging property. But yeah, banners on motorway flyovers is a great idea. I also noticed that there's groups popping up all over the place where people are talking about the case itself and discussing the different elements of it, and that's fantastic. It really is fantastic. But we just need to be a little bit careful that misinformation and misunderstandings not creeping in. If you're not sure about something, ping me a message. It's crazy at the minute. It's really, really, really busy. But ping me a message and just don't put it up until you know for sure, would be my suggestion. And don't be afraid to say to people, look, I'm not sure about that. We'll deal with it when we've got a definitive answer. I think with so many people getting the book, it will be easier for them to check in the book if something's right or not. But certainly, it's fantastic to see so many people talking about it. Anything else? I can't. Let's see. Yeah, don't do anything criminal. It just gives people ammunition to discredit us. Absolutely. Who was that? You're going too fast. Kev Sutherland. Thanks, Kev. Can't look. Yeah, looks good. Looks good. He's absolutely delighted with the response to the film. So, Scott McMillan, I'll tell him everybody's rooting for him. And you know, after all these years, to have this much support, I think we're all kind of still reeling a bit that it's just completely turned on its head. Such an uphill battle. Like, just to get people to listen, just to get the story out there. And suddenly, it's like last Wednesday night, just boom, exploded the whole thing for everybody to see. Hi, Jerome. And you know, I think I cannot say enough how grateful we are to you guys. Yeah, you obviously very, very grateful to the film team. Without them, none of this would be happening. But you guys picked it up and ran with it, and that's the bit that's made this last week what it's been. So thank you so much. Now, Tasha, painted stones when you go for a walk. Yeah, another good idea. Margaret, I'll tell him John Lumsden and you're thinking of him. The people saying, stay strong. Thank you. I've said before, many times along this journey, I could so easily have thrown in the towel. The level of hatred, the level of just aggro, day-to-day aggro that came with taking this stance. And it's something else, I think, you know, maybe the haters and the media who are so keen to throw the negative stuff out there might want to think about. I had nothing to do with this. I didn't know Luke, I didn't know Jodie, I didn't know either of their families. I didn't know, oh yeah, there's one that I need to address as well. I didn't know Scott Forbes either prior to all of this. I only met Scott in 2006. So for somebody like me who just came along and went, hang on, not sure about this, to have that level of aggro and animosity and in some cases threats of violence just for asking questions, yeah, we need, as a society, we need to have a think about ourselves. If we're going to make that okay. So yeah, just thought I would throw that in there. Yeah, sorry. Of course, James English's podcast made a massive, massive impact. In fact, had it not been for them, I don't think the film would have happened. Sorry, James. I didn't mean to forget about you. I didn't forget about you. I'm doing this on the hoof. Thanks. I can't remember who that was. Angela J. Linden, for reminding me. Thank you. Bob Ferguson telling from a very old friend, stay strong. I will. Yeah, so I think for today that's pretty much everything, unless anybody can think of anything I've missed. That obviously there's going to be loads more questions about the ins and outs of the case are going to come up in coming days, and all I've been doing is just keeping notes of them, so that when it comes to the lives at the weekend, I'll have more updates for you and more answers for you. Yeah, it was Joe Steele mentioning it on James English that actually started this whole ball rolling. So thank you, Joe, as well. There's somebody asking, what's the current state of the legal appeal at the minute? Well, there is no legal appeal at the minute. In order to get the case back to the Commission, the SCCRC, we would need new evidence, and new evidence is not what people think it is. It's that which was not or could not reasonably have been available to the defence at the time. Now, that means if the defence could have done their own investigation and found it, and they didn't do that, and then we bring it up now, it's not new evidence. But the problem is, with the cuts to legal aid funding, there is no money for the defence to go and do their own investigation anymore. It's not there. So we're now stuck in this situation where something that the defence could have found, had they been funded to the same level as the prosecution, if we find it ourselves, we can't go back with it because, well, it could reasonably have been available at the time of trial. So this is a thing. I don't think a lot of people understand that. We can't just come up with something and go, oh yay, that wasn't heard at trial, and take it to the Commission, because the argument would be, yeah, but it could have been used at the trial, it just didn't do it. So somebody else asked about improvements in DNA testing technology. Now, that would be an obvious route. That would be a really obvious route. Let's get the DNA samples retested with modern technology. Again, the difficulty we have with that is we need to get the samples released in order to have them retested. And that is such a battle to get them to release them. We have to have good reason for asking for them, and good reason by their standards, not by our standards. So that's another thing that really would, as part of the independent review even, just give them all the samples and let them retest them using modern technology. Because at the end of the day, one way or the other, an independent review will put this to bed forever. And the people who are complaining about their names being dragged up again and everything, it's not my fault your names are getting dragged up again. If that investigation had been done properly, these questions wouldn't still be being answered almost 2 decades later. So I do believe that one of the people that's names has been brought up again as part of this recent film and other bits and pieces has gone on social media and said he would welcome an independent review to clear him. I mean, that's the stage we've reached where we're asking for an independent review to clear people who've actually never been accused of anything in the first place, because the police didn't do their job properly. They didn't make sure these questions were answered and put to bed when they should have done. So again, that's one of the Mandy. If there's nothing to hide, they shouldn't care about names being dragged up. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that simple. If people are being targeted and people are being openly accused of things, then whether they have something to hide or not, that's a hellish position for anybody to be in. Sorry, WATP, why does Scott Forbes say he met you at Stirling Uni? Because he did. He did. Not quite sure what that's got to do with anything. Anyway. Murderer still out there, absolutely. Julie McCall. Because if Luke didn't do this, somebody did. It's something that we really need to think about. Now, I think I'm done for today. It's been another long week, and I think after this I'm going to go. Kevin, is the confession not new evidence? Not as it stands currently. It doesn't meet their description, if you like, the level it has to reach to count as new evidence. Maybe with a little more digging down, we'll get to that standard. And again, I'll keep people posted with that. Now, Harriet Thompson, this is a very good point. You don't get why names being hidden when no one cared when Luke's name as a child. Yes, I get that completely. I totally understand that. But it was wrong when they did it to Luke. They did it anyway, but it was wrong. If we genuinely believe that entire fiasco of an investigation and a trial was wrong, then it would be wrong of us to do anything that was done in there to do that to somebody else now. So, yeah, Luke never, ever, ever should have been in the media the way he was. But nobody today should be in the media the way Luke was, or in social media the way Luke was, especially if it's coming from people like us. We need to be so careful about that. Where was that one? Yeah, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Yeah. Okay, I think there's not many more questions coming up. Lots and lots and lots of support and encouragement. Thank you. Thanks, Jerome. Speak soon. Sharon, I accidentally blocked you. I'm so sorry. I don't know how that happened. Sorry, I'm rubbish with technology. The amount of tech I've had to learn in this last week is unbelievable. Yeah, so Kim, can you tell us about the Stocky man? What do you want to know about the Stocky man? I spoke about him right at the beginning. No, I've already been there, Kim. I've already done the Stocky man stuff. Why did the original appeals fail? Because the original appeals were run on, I suppose, trial procedure. People think that they're a reassessment of the evidence in the trial itself. They're not. They're not. And again, the technical reasons why appeals fail are nothing to do with the actual factual stuff that we're talking about at the minute. So it's just the way the system's built, unfortunately. Which is why I'm saying independent review. If the system's got nothing to hide, let's have it all out on the table. Let's just have it all for everybody to see. Because I don't understand this secrecy of, we can't show you this and you can't share that. The documents I've seen, I can't share them online. Not like they do in the States where they just put everything out for everybody. I can't do that. I'd be committing an offence. Now, why do they want to keep it hidden? Why do they want to keep it secret? This is being done in our names, on our behalfs. I want to know what they're doing. I don't know about you. But yeah, that's the situation as it stands. Foul Play channel doing open mic on tonight, chatting about the case. Yeah, I don't know what time that is. I did see a notification for it earlier. I'll need to go back and have a look at the time, but that's Foul Play, and they're doing an open mic tonight about this case. So head on over there if you want to see what they're on. But I think I'm gonna call it at that, and I'll be back on next week. Watch out for the new email address for anybody that can help and for ideas and things like that. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But that's been an hour. I didn't think I'd last an hour, but there you go. I've done it. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for everything you're doing. And let's keep pushing this forward, and get justice for Jodie, for Luke, and for all of us. Okay, right, I'm gonna go now. I'll see you all next week. Thanks again. Bye. Bye, everybody.